And the intro's playing right now. Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night podcast, a podcast about the stories and relationships board games create. I'm your host, Roy Canning, and with me, as always, is Rob.
Hello, everybody.
Hype, and we have a special guest tonight, Jerry Hawthorne from Plaid Hat Games. What's going on, Jerry?
What?
Hello, guys.
Or Lord, as Roy and I like to call him, Lord Hawthorne.
Lord Hawthorne.
That's because we've been playing a lot of
Rune Wars
miniatures. And one of my favorite characters, his name is Lord Hawthorne. And so we just go around and we're just like, all right, I'm going to move Jerry to this space and attack these skeletons.
I think I tagged you in a post on Instagram or on Twitter being like, hey, look, it's Lord Hawthorne. It reminds me of Jerry.
That's so cool. Yeah, back in HeroScape, there's a character named after me named Sir Hawthorne. He was,
nice.
He was a black knight. He was really cool.
That's awesome. Do you have all the best abilities?
I have a strange combination of abilities back in the HeroScape days. My little character is named after me. He's the traitor knight. So if you put him in your army and you're playing there's a small chance that he might actually defect and go to the other team.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like a horrible backstabbing traitor in the game.
Did you get that from playing other games back in the day? You ended up with this reputation.
No. They just wanted to do something right by me because I had done such hard work on the playtesting team for HeroScape that they just named a character after me, and it didn't bear any resemblance to the way I am in real life, but it's still fun.
Sure.
Besides being super heroic, I'm sure. I'm just kidding. Awesome. Well, if anybody doesn't know who you are, Jerry, can you give everybody a little bit of a spiel of who you are and kind of what you've done so far in the board game industry?
Oh, sure. Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. That people just don't understand sometimes is how important all of you guys are in the board game media. It's what you do is amazing, and you're like the lifeblood of the whole industry because you keep everybody connected and you elevate the whole industry. And so I just want to say thank you for having me on. I think it's great.
Absolutely our pleasure.
We'll give you the money later afterwards, okay?
Yes.
As far as myself, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father, and then thirdly, I'm a game designer, and I do game design full-time, but I haven't always done it full-time. I've actually only been doing it full-time since January. And I've worked on HeroScape for Hasbro for years, and then I worked on Battleship Galaxies for Hasbro. I've done a lot of content development. I've done some editing, writing. I've done a variety of different things, a lot of play testing, a lot of content development, and then for Plaid Hat Games, I helped a little bit with Summoner Wars and when Colby started his company, and then I published Mice and Mystics, which is probably what I'm most known for, which is a cooperative family adventure game where everybody plays a part of a little mouse.
It's a semi-successful board game.
It's pretty successful.
It's pretty well known. And then
there was some sarcasm in that, I hope.
There's I did Tail Feathers, which is kind of an extension of Mice and Mystics, but it's more of like a little competitive battle game where you play mice who are flying around on birds. And now I have my new game and my new game system coming out, the adventure book system, where you actually play the game inside of a book. And my newest game is called Stuffed Fables.
Hype, and we're going to talk all about Stuffed Fables and interview all about that game. But first, we want to give you a chance if there's any games that you've been playing recently, maybe outside of Plaid Hat, or anything that you are excited about if you've played anything new recently.
Yeah, I love trying new games, and I think one game that I have got recently, and we've had some fun playing with, is called Ray Guns and Rocket Ships by
nice.
By Scott Rogers. Have you guys seen this game?
I've seen the game, but I haven't had a chance to play it, or I don't really know a whole lot about it.
Well,
yeah, same here.
Okay, cool. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about it. It's like it's a game where it's kind of like a beer and pretzels little space battle game set in sort of a pulp era science fiction kind of thing. So you're playing like these Buck Roger. You have a little Buck Rogers style spaceship, and you have a ship schematic board, and you have all your crew, and you place them in different places on your little ship. But you also have the space board where you're flying your ship around, and you pre-program your turns. And not only are you flying your spaceship around through this pre-programmed turn thing, but you're also moving your crew member around on your ship, and you can go out the airlock and float through space, and you can rip open the airlock on your opponent's ship, and you can get on board their ship and create all kinds of havoc. And so you got dudes on your ship, and you got your guys on their ship, and everybody's beaming back and forth and shooting lasers back and forth, and it's just a total chaotic romp.
What's the overall goal of the game? Like, what are you trying to make happen?
You're trying to get to a certain victory point condition, but there's also a scenario book that comes with it that has a whole slew of scenarios that I haven't played yet. We've just played like the straight up, we put our ships out there and we just blow the crap out of each other. And I mean, it's super zany fun. And it's, like I said, it's like super beer and pretzels gameplay where you're just rolling dice and chucking dice and drinking beer and eating pretzels and having fun.
That's awesome.
But there's a lot of laughter involved and a lot of funny things that happen. And there's also some tactics in there that are kind of fun and interesting, and you can pull some surprise maneuvers on your opponent. And there's a little bit of a resource management thing going where you use these cards to gain these action tokens, and then how you use your action tokens is kind of important, and that's pretty cool. Every captain has their own special ability that alters the game in some way, so it's asymmetric and just fun.
That's awesome. I love like crazy random games a lot of the times. There's like a whole like slew of people that are all like take the randomness out of the board games, but I feel like without the randomness you don't get those crazy exciting moments where it's like, oh, I barely have a chance to make this happen. You hit that perfect die roll and it's just like, oh my goodness, it blew up your ship. It's so crazy. It just makes things random and exciting. I don't know. I have a whole series on the Dice Tower where I talk about that sort of stuff.
I know. You could do a whole episode on that. There's a lot of people who don't like luck. What's cool about our industry is that there's so much room for so many different kinds of games that give different kinds of experiences,
For sure.
And like if you're in the mood for like some sort of zany, random, goofy, fun, silly game like space fighting in the pulp era science fiction, this game's mechanics fit the theme. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't want to put some sort of heavy, thinky resource, engine building kind of thing on a game like this. This is a game where you sit down and you just goof off and have fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
And you blow each other's ships up, and then somebody wins. You're like, hey, let's play again. I'm gonna get you this time. So,
how long would you say each game lasts?
Well, our first game lasted 2 hours because we had all 4 players, and we were learning the rules and stuff. But I imagine the game, if you had all 4 players and they're all experienced, I imagine the game might last maybe an hour to an hour and a half.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's great.
And then obviously less than that. I think the sweet spot for the game would probably be at 3 players.
That's awesome.
Because it gets really thick, and the action gets real thick with all the stuff happening when you have 4 players.
That's cool. So that was Ray Guns and Rocket Ships?
Ray Guns and Rocket Ships by Scott Rogers and IDW Games.
Awesome. Well, Rob, did you have a chance to play any new games?
I did play some new games. Speaking of being a father and stuff like that, so this weekend I got a new game. Actually, I didn't get it this weekend, but I got Knuckling Knights from Haba Games. It's a little bit of a press your luck type of a game. It's very simple. You roll a die, you put X amount of knights into this castle, and when you're rolling the die, if you roll the secret door, the castle is basically a big dice tower, but it's got a secret door mechanic that keeps all the knights in there. So it would like stop the dice from coming. And then if you roll the door mechanic, you pull out the secret door and all the knights flush out.
Nice.
And at the bottom of the map, there are 2 traps, and you do not want I was about to say mice. Sorry, you do not want your knights to fall into the trap.
Oh, I think I've seen this.
So it's just a cute little game. Yeah, it's cute. It's fun. My daughter's 5. I'd say she's well advanced to play this game. I would play this with my youngest daughter when she gets about 2 or 3. It's just You're just rolling dice, you're putting in knights, and you at the end you want to be the guy who has the most knights left over. But that was really cute. I love Hobbit games. My daughter, ever since then, we've been playing it just about every single day since Saturday. But it's a lot of fun. We also played Pie Face. I haven't played Pie Face in a while. I tell you what, man, whipped cream tastes so much good when you're sucking it out of your mustache. I don't know what it is about mustache whipped cream. I don't know what the flavoring or stuff happens, but man, in the mustache, it's on point. But my daughter absolutely had a blast with it, and so we had a lot of fun with that. And then you guys have heard us talk about Happy Salmon before. Saturday I was chilied out. So I'm part of several organizations here in town, and one of the organizations was having a chili cook-off on Saturday. And being that I was a board member, they were like, "Hey, you're obese. You probably know how to make chili. Will you make chili?" They didn't say obese, but they were like, "You probably know how to cook." And I was like, "Yeah, screw you. Sure, I'll make chili." So I had made chili for this chili cook-off on Saturday. And then Saturday night, we had a guys thing at church, which was a chili and gumbo hangout thing. But I tell you what, if you ever eat a lot of chili and you need to settle your stomach, play Happy Salmon. Oh my gosh. So I had a bunch of the guys, they'd never played this game before. And anytime I get together with a group of people, I always try to bring a couple little games with me. And Happy Salmon hit the board. And it almost was a repeat of what happened the very first time we played at Roy's house. There were kids in the background playing ping pong.
Oh,
Jerry,
no,
have you ever
you didn't
played
knock
Happy
a
Salmon?
kid over, did you?
No, I haven't.
All right, Happy Salmon, it's the dumbest, funnest 45 seconds of your life. You get 12 cards, and there's 4 different types of cards. You have a punch it, which is pound it, which is, just with the knuckles. You have high five. You have switcheroo, where you switch spots with somebody else. And then you have Happy Salmon. And you're just trying to get through your 12 cards as quickly as can. And you're trying to yell it out to see if somebody else at the table has your card. It's very quick, very fast. Anyway, so there's kids playing ping pong, and we've got all these grown men who are just screaming at each other, Happy Salmon, pound it. And we're knocking and we're pushing these kids out of the way so we can try to do our switcheroo and run around the table. We ended up playing that like half a dozen times.
That's crazy.
It doesn't take long, but again, when you're fat and obese and you've just eaten chili, you don't want to run a lot. And so by like the 5th or 6th game, we were like, yeah, we're done. That was fun. And then we all stood outside because it was really cold Saturday night. But it was a blast. Like sometimes it's fun when you get to just play those silly games. And especially, I love when I get to introduce new people into the board game hobby, and I get to do it with a silly game like that. Because a lot of times when people think of board games, especially if they're not a hobbyist, they're thinking of like Monopoly or Risk or something. Yeah. And I'm like, man, we literally have got something for everything. If you like to count beans, we've got games like that. If you want to be silly, we've got games like that. And so I had a blast. And so that was it. Nothing super heavy. Just pie in my face, chili in my gut, Happy Salmon, and Knuckle and Knights.
Awesome.
Sounds like a great weekend.
It was a great weekend. It really was. It was a very busy weekend, but it was a great weekend.
So for me, I played a miniatures game from Jerry's parent company. I played in a Rune Wars tournament. This is I've talked about it on the podcast a bunch, so I won't bore you with the details too much. But it's their miniatures game that's set in their Terranoth universe with their fantasy characters and stuff like that, where it's got the tray movement and everything. They had a tournament at a game store that was like an hour and a half away from me, and went there. There was 8 people that turned out, which is pretty solid, and we had a lot of fun just playing games back and forth and doing the whole Fantasy Flight organized play thing. So it was a lot of fun. Lots of nice things. The thing I love about like these organized play things, like whenever I did like Netrunner tournaments, or whenever I've done like any like of these like casualish tournaments, like people are so nice compared to like I used to play Magic back in the day and stuff like that, and I've done some like Warhammer 40K stuff, but just like in like these more like board gamerish style competitive play, everyone's like a lot more friendly, it seems like, and everybody's there just to have a good time more than to like win to get the extra booster packs or whatever. People are just like casually having fun and talking about what they put in their army and like how they gonna tweak things and giving you tips about painting and stuff like that. It's just a lot of cool, interesting guys. So yeah, I played the Rune Wars miniatures game at Atomic Empire. Awesome. So one of the things we're going to be doing for the podcast is we're going to be giving away some dice at the end of the podcast, an Epic Gaming Night dice and Favorite Game Friday, so make sure to stick around. I can only do it for people who actually type in chat, so if you're watching, make sure to hit us up, and also if you're listening to the audio podcast, make sure to check us out at youtube.com/Epic Gaming Night in the future, and hang out and chat with us there, because it's a lot of fun to talk to you guys while we're doing this live. But yeah.
The dice turned out beautifully.
By
the way, I got to see them the other day. Really, really gorgeous dice.
Yeah, Chessex does a pretty good job with their little custom dice stuff. So awesome stuff.
Do you guys have a particular company that you guys use, Jerry, for dice or stuff like that, or is it all like?
Does Asmodee use Panda?
We use a combination of Panda and Ludafact.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So, and like we depending upon what kind of product that we're creating, we'll choose between those two.
Yeah, because you guys always have really good components.
We're pretty picky, and I think you have to be. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot of sending samples back and forth and approving them and making sure everything's perfect.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't do you any good to approve something that's subpar. I mean, it really doesn't.
Competition just because you're in a hurry, in the gaming world's too hard nowadays to just be subpar.
I remember last time we had you on, we were talking about tail feathers, and you were talking about how y'all went back and forth forever about the little flight stands on tail feathers.
It just took forever. But those are the kinds of things that you do, and then you never forget the process that you go through, so you become more knowledgeable in how that stuff works, you know.
That's awesome.
And the cost of things. I mean, you're starting with no point of reference, and you're trying to create a product that you want a certain profit margin on. I mean, this is a business, you know, and just being able to learn that stuff and know that stuff so you can make better choices in the future is just part of it, I guess.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to talk to you all about Stuffed Fables. If there's anybody who hasn't heard about this, I know it's a game that's just about to be released or getting closer to it. Tell us what Stuffed Fables is.
Okay, yeah. Well, Stuffed Fables is it's a purely cooperative family game where each player plays the part of a little stuffed animal who comes to life at night to protect their little girl from the monsters that are going to come from under the bed to disturb her sleep. And on the first night on the job, some misadventure happens and you accidentally get sucked into the portal under the bed, and you end up in the world where the monsters come from, which is ruled by a nightmare king, populated by bunches of lost and broken toys who also need your help. Oh, nice. So you play through this epic story. You're literally playing inside of a storybook, and you're straddling both worlds as you're trying to help the little lost and broken toys in the dark world where the Nightmare King rules. But you're also trying to protect your little girl. And when the Nightmare King finds out you've been meddling in his world, he wants to come and mess up your little girl's sleep. So it just kind of leads to all these adventures and capers.
What a jerk.
So where did you get the idea for designing Stuffed Fables?
Okay, so it's kind of an interesting story, I think, anyway, because this is actually one that comes from a designer's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My wife watched this movie with the kids. She took the kids to see a Pixar movie called Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know this movie?
Yeah, for sure.
So my daughter loves this movie.
She came and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Jerry, when you see this movie, you're going to fall in love with it. You're going to want to design a game." And so I had to watch the movie. So I watched the movie and I was like in tears, because not only did it touch me emotionally, but it was brilliant. I mean, it was like watching pure brilliance.
Oh yeah.
And so I was immediately inspired. I had to design. I mean, at first I was like, "Oh, I'm going to design Inside Out the game," you know. Yeah. You know how you are, you know.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to design the game Inside Out. But I started actually just spending my time of contemplation, like in the mornings or whenever, and just thinking about, okay, how would you gamify this movie, right? Because I was still stuck on the movie. How would you gamify this movie? So I started breaking it down, and I was like, okay, so you have individual little characters who are all represent an emotion inside of this little girl's head, and you're watching her go through a traumatic period of her life, but you're experiencing it through the individual emotions who are all personified in these little characters, and they're also color-coded. So each character, so like the little anger guy is red, and joy is yellow and bright, and sadness is blue, and disgust is green. And so I was like thinking, okay, so everything's color-coded, which is really great for designing games, you know. And how would I have a cooperative experience where each player is playing an emotion? And then I started coming up with this idea about how you could have different colored dice represent different attributes or different emotions or whatever, you know, and that each player would be those colored dice. And so I came up with this system where, you know, you have a bag full of these different colored dice, and on your turn, you draw a handful of dice out of the bag, and then that's what you're able to do on your turn. But each character specializes in a certain color, and you're encouraged to share dice and work together as a team cooperatively to accomplish your missions. And then I started really, you know, play testing this little game system and rolling a lot of dice and, you know, and crunching some numbers. And I was like, this is pretty cool. This is really flexible too. I could really kind of almost tell any story with this set of dice, this dice system. It's very flexible. So then, well, wait a minute. I can't really make Inside Out the game. That's owned by Pixar. We're never going to get the, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm just like a, you know, a fringe designer that's not very well known. I'm not going to land the Pixar license for Inside Out. And furthermore, I want to do something on my own. I want to do something original. So I started thinking about children and their experiences growing up, and somehow or another I started thinking about stuffed animals and how they provide comfort for children. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be cool if, like, you had each little stuffed animal would represent a different aspect of this girl's personality, and that they were there kind of like in Inside Out, like the emotions are inside out. They were kind of there to, like, watch over her sleep, but they each kind of represented an aspect of her personality. And then I color-coded them to match those personalities, and this is how it started to evolve into a game where I was able to, like, you know, attach a story to it, and then I started creating the story, and this is what it led to, basically.
That's awesome.
I hope that wasn't long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, I loved it.
No.
It's definitely awesome to see inside the Mind Designer. I played the demo at Gen Con, and I'm like, that didn't feel like Inside Out at all to me. I wonder where this is going. So it was cool to see your process on that.
Yeah, well, you know, the Mice and Mystics was inspired by a Pixar movie, too. It was inspired by The Incredibles, where I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if a family got together and you could all play this cooperative game and you each had superpowers, and those superpowers worked together as a team, so each character kind of filled a little niche. And then that evolved into Mice and Mystics when my daughter, you know, was struggling to learn how to read, and she loved mice. And so I kind of morphed. I took the system that I'd created to, like, to represent the different powers in The Incredibles, and I morphed that on over into RPG powers for these super mice, and that's basically how Mice and Mystics came.
That's awesome.
So I guess I'm heavily inspired by Pixar movies.
Which, that makes sense, though, being a family guy. Once you have kids, Pixar and Disney and everything else, which they're the same company, they take over. But I do have a question concerning Pixar movies.
Sure.
Are we going to have, like, and you probably can't say this, but are we going to have, like, a gut-wrenching moment in this game, like Pixar is famous for, with just like that like, for example, in Inside Out, I think it's in Bing Bong.
Yeah, the little,
you know, when he jumps off
my
the cart.
son bawled.
Oh, bro, I started bawling when he jumped off the cart so Joy can make it, and they're singing the song. Oh my gosh, it's like, no, don't get off the cart, Dad. And I know what you're doing, and it was beautiful, but that's terrible because now you're forgotten. It's horrible.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's any, like, real heavy emotional experience in Stuffed Fables like that.
Yeah.
Is your game going to make children cry, Jerry? No,
it's not going
to. The parents cry, and the kids are like, Dad, what's wrong?
There's in the game, in Stuffed Fables, there's this other world where the monsters come from, but like I said, it's populated by lost and broken toys.
Mm-hmm.
And some kids find that find this to be heartbreaking. Like, who would like these poor toys? You know, the way that children become attached to their toys and their stuffed animals, it's very, very real emotions for them. And so I hear a lot of children that like are very, very concerned about these poor lost and broken toys that are in this other world. And so the game really, the overarching story really involves it's all about these stuffed animals whose duty to protect the little girl is crisscrossing with their duty to be heroes to these poor lost and broken toys. And so they have to straddle both worlds, and it sort of pulls on them a little bit. And so there's like this sentimental quality. As a parent, you're probably going to feel sort of sentimental when you play the game. There's some scenes, and I'm not going to give anything away, but there are some scenes later on that are specifically designed to make parents emote about their experiences of being a parent, because, you know, it's like one of the hardest things you could ever do in your life is to be a parent, but it's also one of the most rewarding, and that's why people do it. And so all those elements are put in there. So for children, it's imaginative, it's fun, and there's opportunities to have empathy. And for parents, it's going to be sentimental and nostalgic.
That's awesome.
So
hey, can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
This is actually a question from one of our listeners. They want to know they're asking specifically about Tales of the Arabian Nights or Above and Below, but I'll kind of change it up a little bit. Is there another storytelling game, narrative-wise, that we could kind of compare to Stuffed Fables? Like, I know Tales of the Arabian Nights is a fantastic game, but it is an open sandbox set up whatever you want to choose. Is this going to be more of a structured, choose your own adventure game, or a big open sandbox type of story game?
This game is not sandboxy. It's more of like a choose your own adventure story, and the story is somewhat linear. And so you're going to play through this girl's life from age 3 to age 10. And each time you play, you're going to play one of the milestone nights where you would normally expect a child's sleep might be interrupted. So you're going to follow this little girl's life. You're going to become, attached to the mission of protecting her sleep, but you're also going to become entwined in the needs of these quests that you're going to be going on to help these toys and lost and broken toys who are basically being oppressed by this creepy nightmare king in this other world.
Awesome.
So as soon as you said that, I thought, which horror movie does she watch, like around 7 or 8, that completely changes her life? Because I know for me it was Pet Sematary, and ever since then I didn't. Yeah,
that's a scary one.
Yeah,
I still remember the scene where the little kid cuts the ankle.
Yes, the Achilles tendon.
So freaky.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was an adult when I watched that.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are huge fans of Mice and Mystics. How different is Stuffed Fables from your Mice and Mystics game?
Well, I think that naturally, because I'm the same designer that designed both games, you're going to see a lot of similarities as far as like the feel and the tone of it, the pacing of it.
Lots and lots of story.
Lots and lots of story, because that is where my heart lies when it comes to game design. That's basically what I specialize at. There's a lot of people doing a lot of different kinds of games out there, and so many people doing so many wonderful games out there. But what I do is I basically want my players who play my games to like really feel like they're inside of a story and living inside of a story. And I want that experience to be as indelible as a good book or a story on their memories. And
That's
so,
awesome.
Some people, some people design very, very elegant mechanical engine building games and stuff. And some people design, crazy beer and pretzel fun games and card games. There's all different kinds of ways to design. And just my little parking space that I have reserved for myself in the world of game design, that little parking space is all about the story. So it's going to be just like Mice and Mystics. In fact, somebody was asking if we were going to have Rich Sommer do a audio version of Stuffed Fables. And because Stuffed Fables is structured differently than Mice and Mystics, it's really hard to do because the little story bits are happening all the time. In
it's not giant blocks of text. It's just like text
they're
interspersed
little
throughout
bits
different
of
things that you
experience
do.
all the time. Some of them are on cards where you're like drawing these little, I call them crossroads cards for kids, but basically in the world, whenever you're adventuring in this dark world called the Fall, where all the lost toys go, if you come upon a little symbol on the map, then that allows you to draw a card. And what it is, it functions like a crossroads card, but it's not dark and scary or anything. It's basically you run into a little lost or broken toy that has some sort of need, and you might have some sort of way of meeting that need. And they function like a crossroads card where you read it to the player and it gives them a choice to make and stuff. But they're really all about teaching or just experiencing charity and empathy and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
A lot of times you'll help them out, but you won't get anything in return. And that's really important concept because so many kids don't really realize that sometimes you just do something nice just for the sake of doing something nice because it's the right thing to do.
Awesome. I know we've already talked about the story a bunch. Are there any other aspects of the story of Stuffed Fables we should know about?
Any other aspects of the story that we should know about? Okay, so when you play a game session, that'll be one night in this little girl's life. A story has 3 possible endings. So let's say you play a story and you choose this branch or that branch or whatever. You're probably only going to experience about 80% of that story, and
Nice.
So you might not get one of the other endings, and so another playthrough could yield a different experience also. So
that's cool.
And
I
think
play
that's
that game Fable.
The
video game Fable.
I remember that game.
That it had that. There was always like 3 or 4 endings based off of the actions that you picked, and so you may do one thing and then you'll get the happy hero ending or the sad victim ending. I really like that about that game. Okay.
So,
there's a term like basically what the deal is you're going to get a resolution no matter what. So it's
Nice.
not like the only way that you could actually have the game end abruptly and you don't get any kind of satisfying ending is if all the stuffed animals lost all their stuffing at the same time, which is one of the 3 possible endings. That would be the hard fail. But the other 2 endings are going to be story based, and so you'll actually get to a point in the book where it'll just send you to the ending, and it usually involves the stuff he's coming back to the room and sneaking back into the room and snuggling up next to their girl just before she wakes up in the morning. And then you get this, the parents come into the room and they greet their daughter in the morning and she had a great night's sleep or she didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So you have these kinds of endings and stuff like that. I think that's kind of neat. And also that there's Fables. It's like the game is named Stuffed Fables, but each time you play, the story begins with a little fable. And it's not part of the game mechanics or anything. It's just there in case you want to have a richer experience. You could read the little fable, and then you could have that in your thoughts while you're playing the game because the story you're about to play through is going to match the theme of that little fable.
That's
and
awesome.
This is just kind of a cool thing, but it's also like for anybody who wants to use this game as any kind of tool for teaching kids morality or anything like that, the tools are there provided. And at the end of every chapter, there's also a series of little questions that you could ask that just are there to spark conversation, and they're open-ended questions that just kind of get you talking and stuff, and they're themed to match the story you just played through.
That's great.
Awesome.
What age range would you recommend kids to start playing this game to really appreciate it?
I think that we put 7 and up on the box. I don't think that a group of 7-year-olds would be able to play the game independently.
Right.
So the idea is that it's a mixed age kind of game where you might have some more experienced players or some experienced readers or whatever. But I say that a child. We had some 6 and 7-year-olds in our play testing that really, really were captivated by the game. They played, just ate it up, made their parents play every night and played through the whole thing, and then turned around and wanted to play through it all over again.
That's awesome.
And that's pretty cool, especially when you think about this as being sort of a linear story. But kids kids and even adults. I mean, I know some of my favorite stories and favorite books and movies and stuff, I don't mind watching or reading again. And my kids watch the same stuff over and over and over again.
Yes, kids do.
It's so hilarious.
Yes, well, cool.
That's awesome. So you have lots of moral lessons and stuff like that in there that parents can choose to do or look at with their kids. Are there any, like, can you give us a little bit more information about like how you went about like adding that sort of thing into the game? And is this a thing you can use to like help teach your children like what are good things to do and how to be helpful to other people and try to be gracious and compassionate and stuff like that?
I think anytime that you gather around and you don't have electronic devices and you just gather around with your family, anytime you do this, it's gonna make an impact on your child, no matter what, right? But the
especially in today's world.
Yeah, exactly. We have a sacred duty as board game professionals. We provide the means by which people can have a holistic experience that is sort of the answer to the electronic world. It's the antidote, basically, right? And I firmly believe this. You gather your family together, or your friends and family together, and you sit down and play through a game of Stuffed Fables or Mice and Mystics or something like that. I'm not going to spoon feed a moral message to you. I'm not going to tell you this is the moral message of this story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the opportunity to experience different events, and then your choices will sort of shape how you view these virtues that characters have, the responsibility and the duty of heroism, the ability within all of us to be a hero. That's awesome. Fact that no matter how small you are or how weak you are, you still have this impact on the world, and it's more profound than you could actually ever imagine yourself. So
I'm getting hype right now, bro. Like, let's go,
awesome.
Jerry. I'm with you. Let's do this.
So that's basically what it is. I don't like try to, and you're talking about how do I deliver a moral message. The idea wasn't really to try to deliver this strong moral message. The idea was like, okay, this is the night that she's going to sleep in her bed. It's the night before the first night of kindergarten. What are the things that children would fear? What would keep them awake at night? Well, it'd be the fear of meeting new kids or not fitting in. So then I make the whole story about fitting in, learning to meet new people, and making a name for yourself, and doing right by others and stuff like that, and not being a jerk, And that, I mean, it's simple stuff. That's
awesome.
But you get the opportunity to play through that stuff in the game, and it'll all match that little theme, and then you get to experience the ending, where you get to see how the night's sleep, if it went well, how it affected her life the next day, or if the night didn't go well, how that affected her life the next day.
Awesome, man. So cool. Can you tell us a little bit about the mechanics of the game, like how the whole like action bag works and the different puzzles and storybooks and stuff like that? Okay,
sure. Yeah. So what you do on your turn in Stuffed Fables is you'll reach into this bag, and it has 35 dice in the bag. You'll reach in there, and you'll pull out a handful of 5 dice. The colors of the dice are going to tell you basically what you can do on your turn. There are colored dice, which all match a different character attribute. So red would match your strength. Green would match your agility. Yellow matches your perception. Blue is your resistance. And purple is your luck. Purple dice can be used as any other colored attribute dice, so they're wild. There's also 2 other dice colors in there. There's white dice and black dice. Now, white dice are your stuffing. See, you're a little stuffed animal, and you start the game with 5 stuffing. And whenever you get into battles and stuff, you're going to lose stuffing. But your white dice allow you to find stuffing around and then stuff your stuffy back with that stuffing. So you don't really need a healer in your party. It's kind of like your life points or your stuffing. And if you ever get the stuffing knocked out of you, all of your stuffing knocked out of you, then your little stuffy collapses. But on your next turn, you'll reach into the bag, and if you pull out a white die, you automatically get a stuffing back, because what you do with that white die is the first thing you do when you get a white die is you roll it. And if the number you roll is equal to or higher than your current stuffing, then you gain a stuffing. So the less stuffing you have, the more likely you are to find stuffing. So it always keeps the players in the action.
You're trying to pull yourself back together.
Yeah. And you could pull stuffing out of your stuffed animal and hand it to your neighbor and, put it in their stuffed animal in case they need it. So everybody's a healer in the game. Then there are black dice too, and the black dice represents some bad stuff. It represents the Nightmare King hunting you down with his minions and stuff. And so you put those on a track, and when those get to a certain threshold, then you have an experience. Usually it means that the minions have caught up with you, and you're going to have to do a little bit of a battle. And the minions are all they're all little robotic minions made out of old broken toy parts and stuff. So they're sort of reanimated toys, kind of. They're made in this big evil toy factory, which is the home of the Nightmare King.
Gotcha. Awesome.
You'll eventually. The book that you're playing through is 104 pages, and you're actually playing inside the book. And every time you turn the page, it's a different environment. So instead of having a game board that's basically always static, or having an arrangement of tiles that you try to arrange different ways to make it new, every page is something different. So just not knowing what's coming next, not being able to look ahead in the book, not knowing what's coming next is kind of a big part of the anticipation, especially for young ones.
How do you do that? I mean, just the idea of, like, the design idea behind that. I mean, I understand from a game design point of view, the concept sounds amazing, but, like, how do you really pull that off? Where is, like, the box your game book? And so I imagine it's got to be really thick.
The book itself was like this big at Gen Con, because it's like a bunch of pages, and you play on the book itself. And another thing that I saw that was interesting is that, like, you can change up what's going on constantly throughout the games, because you have rules references on the side of these pages, and so you could go to a new map and there's new things that are going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're actually playing on the art and the game changes and you're like actually playing a mini game. Mm-hmm. It's because you could just do whatever you want. And remember, that dice system is kind of flexible, so there's a lot of different ways that it can be used. So sometimes you might turn a page and then there'll be a little bit of rules that's telling you how the dice are going to work different on this page, and then you'll play through more of an interactive kind of art.
What gave you the idea to play in the book? Because outside of, like, games like Ice Cool or other things like that, where, like, they use the box and stuff, I've never heard of, or maybe they're out there, I'm not familiar with them, but I've never heard of a game like using its components in that way. I mean, you're the story in the board through. Yeah, like what made you think of the idea of, because it makes complete sense, like storytelling at night and stuff, fables and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you really want to get into it, I get it and I love it. Where did that come from? Where did that idea come from?
Well, it was born from, like, the limitations of not being able to have enough variety in tiles to be able to tell a story. And I'm, like, creating a world where they're going into this nightmare world. So I wanted to be able to have this wide variety of different experiences and locations that just couldn't be done with a set of finite tiles.
Yeah.
So I went to my boss, Colby, who's a genius, by the way. And I went to my boss and I said, I want to have all of these environments in the game, and I listed how many I wanted to have. I said, if I find a new up and coming artist to render these environments, is this something we could do? And he would be like, are they all good? He said, are they all going to be on chipboard? I'm like, no, they'll be in a book, and they'll be in cardstock material in a book, and then I'll have another book that'll be the storybook that'll guide you through. And he's like, had this sour look on his face. He's like, why don't you just put them in one book? I don't want separate books. Why can't you just put them in one book? I'm like, because that can't be done. He's like, why not? You have the page on this side, you have the map, you're moving your dudes around this side, the other side you have your story. I'm like, yeah, but that limits me. And he's like, yeah, you could figure it out. Put it in one book.
Just make it a big old book with big old pages.
He's like, you can do it. I know you can. I know you can do it. I'm like, oh, sheesh. So I went about trying to figure out how to do this, and that was a big struggle, because when you're working with a 10 by 10, because the book is 10 by 10 inches, so you have a map on one side, 10 by 10. That's easy. Yeah. The other side, you have all of the words, but all the words have to fit into that 10 by 10 area, right? So I always have to work within this and I can't have the story branch so much that I go over in words. And so I had to come up with sort of a word count that I was working with, but every single page has to fit within that word count. But I still have to tell a cohesive story. And each story has to be played in 90 minutes. So that means that I can have roughly 5 locations or so, with 15 minutes per location. And that means this many words. And that's basically the formula. But I don't recommend it. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
It's a hard way to write because you're constantly rewriting more than you would ever imagine.
You'd be like, edit.
You're not fitting in. And then you're constantly aggravated because you want to tell some sort of extra little bit, but you can't. So, but the thing is whenever my genius boss Colby gives me these challenges, and then I meet those challenges, I become a better designer. And so, I know he's just driving me forward to be better. And his instincts are so good that's how we ended up with Stuffed Fables. But one of the neat little solutions that we came up with was like whenever you experience a certain kind of environment that you might not experience it very often, then the book will just tell you to pull out that environment card and set it by the book so it gives you the rule on this little card, so you don't have to go to the rule book. You also don't have to clog up the storybook with that information. And you might remember how to use that rule, you might not, but you have the card right there. So let's say
cool.
Let's say you're in an environment that has fire. Then the storybook will say, put the fire environment card into play, and you just pull it out and you set it aside. Now, if anybody goes near that fire spot, all they have to do is look at that card to know what it's going to do to them,
So you almost create your own FAQ as you're playing.
Yeah, well, the idea is like our big enemy at Plaid Hat Games is the rule book. We consider the rule book to be a barrier to playing games, and we don't want the end user to feel like that barrier is insurmountable. We want that to be the smallest, easiest barrier to get past. It's like preventing people from playing games. I mean, it's preventing new people from joining our industry and becoming fans of board games because they're intimidated by the size of these rule books. So what we try to do is think of how to deliver the most gameplay with the smallest amount of rule footprint and the easiest entry into the fold. And one thing that's really cool about Stuffed Fables, I think, is that nobody really needs the rule book. After you learn the rules and you play it just a little bit, you really don't have to reference it anymore. And then the storybook itself is always holding your hand. So it's kind of like this neat way of like quickly getting into the game, giving you simple gameplay that is used in lots of different imaginative ways throughout the storybook. But it's still based on the same simple gameplay of reaching into a bag, pulling out 5 dice, and then that tells you what you do. That's so easy to write those rules in a small rule book, but it gives you so much flexibility within the storybook to manipulate it however you want.
I know at Gen Con, the book y'all had, y'all were doing some QR code stuff to help with additional rules and stuff like that. Is that still part of the plan, or?
Yes, and actually, I know QR codes are sort of a mixed bag. That we get some, you always hear some negative people in, game enthusiasts that don't like QR codes or something. But what we've done with this is like they're purely optional because we reference the page of the rule book where that rule is found if you wanted to go to that page of the rule book to read it.
Oh, nice.
Or you can wave your phone over the QR code and a little video will pop up and it'll teach you that specific rule very quickly and easily, so everybody at the table learns it at the same time.
That's cool.
But we could have, like, we were talking about this, I think this morning at the office, like, we could have done some really interesting things with them QR codes that we didn't even think about at the time, We could have had cutscenes, basically, where, like, you get to a certain spot in the storybook and you got a cutscene here, Everybody watches this little bit of movie, so we could, like, actually bridge these two kinds of things. I don't know.
Just make even more immersive storytelling.
Well, or just, give people the option of whether to read it or whether just to have the video do it, I don't know. Just interesting little things like that we could have done, so.
You finish a page and you see the stuffed animals flying down a pile of broken toys on a red wagon.
Yeah, there you go. You could actually show that action sequence or
Yeah.
something. That's kind of cool.
Trying to chase down a train. I think that's what was happening in the
Yeah.
scenario that we played.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you guys have done a lot of work on the art and miniatures for this game, and they look amazing. What kind of characters can we expect, and can you tell us a little bit about the art and miniatures in the game?
Okay. Yes. We had we put a lot of faith in our artists. We try to find the right artist, and then we task them with sort of creating the visual quality of the worlds that we make. Through just my my descriptions. And I'm very, very wide open with the artists. I want them to own what they're doing, and I want them to sort of feel like they have that creative agency to kind of really sort of make it theirs, And we found this artist named Kristen Pauline, and I basically told her what the game was about. I told her the tone that we were going for, which I call creepy cute. And I gave her some ideas of different movies and things that I liked the tone of those movies and stuff. I told her what kind of colors I thought would look good. And then I gave her the description of each of the characters and let her sort of create the look and feel and the lighting and the mood and the textures of the game world. And then our awesome graphic artist, Dave Richards, and our other graphic artist, Kendall Wilkerson, they basically took all the colors that Kristen used, and they put it on this beautiful rainbow graph thing, and then those are the colors that they chose to do everything else in the game when they did the graphic art. So all the art and everything completely matches. The environmental artist, his name was Regis, and he is from France, and he is a bright young starving artist, and he just came and he just knocked out all those environments for us using the same color palette as Kristen and going off those colors and everything. So the whole world just kind of ties together visually, just beautiful. And then we had this Edgar, this wonderful sculptor who did a digital sculpt of all of the characters right off of Kristen's art, and just did the miniatures just turned out so crisp and beautiful and full of character.
They are the reason why I'm buying your game. They look gorgeous.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I saw all these miniatures standing on this storybook, and I'm just like, what is this game? It looks great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're really proud of it. Everything just turned out just beautiful, and it all ties together visually just so nicely.
Now, Kristen, isn't she also doing some new artwork for you guys as well for Ashes and some other stuff? Because I know Ashes, which is Isaac's game, has got a new artist on board. Is that also Kristen, or is Plaid Hat Games kind of testing the waters with different artists, or just doing it a case by case, game design? I guess.
I don't think that's Kristen that's filling in for
Fernanda.
For Fernanda.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, I would love to use Kristen again. But that's a funny thing. Like she just she made like stuff Fables. She gave it that look and everything.
Oh yeah.
And that's just. I mean, if you go to her DeviantArt page or whatever, you see that is like her art style. It's like, yeah, her style is so awesome. I would love to work with her again. It would have to be, I'd have to have a theme that I was going for that would match her art style. That I feel that they would be a good blend.
I have a green screen behind me, so in my little box in our window on the live thing, it's got the cover art for the board game that has all the stuff, all the little animals looking like they're going out on their adventure, the stuffed Fable guys. So I love the art for the game. How many different miniatures are going to be in the box? 'Cause I know you have your regular characters and then a whole bunch of different monster creatures. Like all the evil toys or evil characters, I guess. Yeah, there's like evil toys, and then there's all the boss characters in the game. Oh, nice.
And then they, what's interesting is the scale. By the way, the scale of this is it's interesting because you're playing stuffed animals heroes. So whenever you encounter like a human-sized boss or whatever, they're big. I mean, they're like like Crepitus, the Nightmare King. He's like, I don't know, like 4 inches tall, because that scale is like really important visually in the game. So that's kind of a cool element. But I think there's 23 miniatures in the game or something like that.
Okay.
Something like that. I could be wrong. There's 6 heroes. You start off with 4, and then just like in Mice and Mystics, you rescue 2 more heroes eventually. So you'll have a group of 6 heroes to choose from. And then there's minions, which there's 12 minions, so that's 18, and then you have the bosses. Yeah, I think it's like 23.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about the different stuffed animals that you can play as in the game, like their different characters?
Yeah. Well, you have Theodora Stuffins, who that's the little girl's. That's the one that she chooses to snuggle with at night. So she has a special place of prominence in their little stuffed animal hierarchy, and she doesn't take that lightly. So she's kind of like the leader. She's the most flexible of all the stuffies. She's got the special ability that allows her to swap out any of her attribute dice for any other attribute dice that's in the discard pool, so she can do more cool things. Then there's Stitch, who's an heirloomer. He is an old rag doll that's been passed down from generation to generation. He's handmade, stitched together out of different fabrics, has mismatched button eyes. And he's kind of like the old mentor, and he represents the girl's attachment to her ancestral history and her love of her grandfather. And he sort of provides that narration throughout the story, so that you always kind of know what's going on, because Stitch has been there and seen it, and so he fills in those details for the reader.
How cool is that?
And you got Lumpy, who is he's the little elephant, and he's kind of like the tank of the group. But he's also a little coward. He's a little shy, little cowardly kind of elephant. But he's also the toughest one of them all. So it's kind of neat, because he's got reinforced stitching, and he can take a lot of punishment. And he's the one that the little girl turns to when she's feeling blue. And so basically, he's been burdened by all this little girl's little, stuff that she burdens him with when she's sad. And he takes that all in, and he carries all that burden around with him. That's kind of like why he is the way he is. And then there's Flops, which is the bunny, and she's like agile, and so she works with green dice really well, and she is like she represents the girl's sassy side, like her her little attitude and stuff, and she's always cracking jokes throughout the whole story. And then you have 2 others. You have Lionel, which is the little lion, and he's all ferocity and stuff. As the little girl grows up, she sort of learns her own ferocity, and her own special power. And then there's Piggle, who's my favorite. And Piggle's the one that's just lucky and always positive, always upbeat, and very flexible character. And like Piggle's special colored dice is purple, so Piggle gets all these bonuses for using purple dice and stuff, and increases the luck of your group. So those are the characters.
That's awesome. Cool. So, you've made several games that are made for like adults to sort of play with their children. What makes you want to design that kind of game?
Well, as I said earlier, I strongly believe that like one of the best family experiences you could offer your child is a holistic experience. In other words, where instead of being separated by some sort of video device or being exposed to some kind of media, you need to have times where you just sit down and you're face-to-face, and you can learn 10 times more about your fellow family members and create more lasting memories by doing so. So I would like to be the guy that helps people with that. And this is what I know. This is the way I express my art, is through game design. I kind of draw, I kind of paint, I kind of write, but I'm not like super awesome at any one of those things. But I love games, and I love the tinkering aspect of game design, and I put it all together, and this is what I come up with, and this is what I do. And I think it's hugely important. I feel like creating an experience that's indelible upon the memories of your children is one of the most valuable things a parent can do, especially if those memories are positive and they involve the whole family getting together. And cooperative games are great for this too, because you either all win together or you all lose together. So it's a big shared memory, and nobody's blaming anybody else. Nobody's like, "Oh, I won, I feel great. You lost, nah, nah, nah." No, it's none of that business. It's like everybody working together, and I think that's if there's something that I could do that would that would elevate our industry. If I could like make new gamers, that would be like the coolest thing in the world. So.
That's awesome. It's definitely cool how you make games that are not only engaging for the parent, but the kids are enjoying them. So there's a lot of games out there that are like, these are kids games. Those are for kids to play. Your games are kind of like helps bring everybody together, and it's for like both halves to enjoy,
Well, like I said, I'm kind of inspired by the Pixar style of doing movies, where it's a
kids
immensely
movie, but
enjoyable for parents. I mean, one of my favorite movies in the world is The Incredibles. I think it's like one of the best superhero movies ever. So yeah, that's like my favorite stuff.
That's awesome. Cool. So what are we looking for like time frame for this game? I know you guys have to be very broad about that sort of stuff because there's always sorts of delays, but when should we be looking out for this?
It should be, it still has not been delayed. It should still be arriving sometime in the first part of December. We're not allowed to be specific until we're allowed to be specific. Right now, that's about the best I can do for you.
I'm pretty excited. I thought it was after that. That's going to be awesome.
Are we able to pre-order it right now on the website?
Yes, you can pre-order it on our website, and I have noticed that like Cool Stuff Inc. and all these other websites have it up for pre-order, and I think there might be a pre-order on Amazon too, so probably through a third-party seller.
Awesome.
Side note, have you ever seen the movie Little Monsters with Fred Savage?
No.
Okay. This game sort of reminds me of that movie. Long story short, there's a monsters, under your bed. And this is Fred Savage. I can't remember the TV show he did that he was famous for as a little kid.
Wonder Years?
Wonder Years, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Anyway, he becomes friends with his monster under his bed.
Oh, yeah.
And he ends up going with that monster into the monster world. The monster takes him under the bed into the monster world. And what ends up happening is some of the other monsters find out, and they want to keep the humans there because Fred Savage ends up telling his brother and his friends like, "Oh, there's this monster world and it's great." Well, and then one of the monsters kidnaps the little brother to try to keep the humans there because I guess they get like special powers while the humans are there.
Sounds like a whole labyrinth situation.
Yeah, it's kind of scary a little bit for like little kids, but it was a cute movie. Anyway, just as you were talking about, like, not necessarily going under the bed, but going into that dream world and stuff like that, it made me think, like, what was that Fred Savage movie that I watched as a little child?
Fred Savage.
That's awesome. So I have a question so we can learn a little bit about you, Jerry. Sure. If you could play any game with anyone who has ever lived, what would you play and who would you play it with?
How about Onitama with Bruce Lee?
That would be intense. Who do you think has the better martial arts skills when it comes to the board game?
Yeah, I would kick Bruce Lee's butt.
You've got that Onitama experience.
Yeah, I do the tiger pounce on him.
You just want to play that so you can say that you beat Bruce Lee and Onitama.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Man, that's a good question.
It's a tough one. Is there anything else exciting that we should keep our eyes out for at Plaid Hat Games?
Yes. Okay. So coming out in February is our Crystal Clans card game. It's sort of the spiritual successor to Summoner Wars. It's a tactical 2-player head-to-head card game. Takes about 5 minutes to learn, but it's hard to master. But it's awesome, fun, quick gameplay. You play it on this nice mat and that's coming out in February. And then later on in 2018, we have Starship Samurai.
Yes.
Seen Starship Samurai?
Oh yeah.
I'm super excited to learn more about it
because it's really flippin' cool. So what it is you're playing like a Japanese feudal house, but in like this space setting, futuristic kind of setting, where samurai exist and everything. And it's like a big, it's neat. You're fighting over these different planets, and you're trying to gain favor with these different house clans, right? And it's real streamlined mechanics and everything. And there's lots of these wonderful tactics cards that bring story into it and everything. And it's just filled with. It's beautiful. The artwork and the miniatures are crazy, but
yeah, the miniatures are ridiculous for that.
You have spaceships, and you have different kinds of spaceships and different kind of tactics cards that you're using to like try to gain control of these planets. But you also have your freaking samurai, and when you need to hit the heavy duty stuff, then you drop your samurai in there, and things get crazy. Gotcha. That's a Isaac Vega game, fantastic. We also have Gen 7 coming out next year, which is kind of like a top secret new Crossroads game coming out next year. It's going to be amazing.
Is that a space themed?
Mm-hmm.
So that's official? That's official? Jerry. Jerry? We've been... Jerry? That's official? Because I'm about to lose my mind.
We got a lot of stuff coming out. We got a lot of stuff coming out.
Okay, but next year we're going to get our Crossroads space game?
Next year we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff coming out.
Shut up. Man, I was a part of the original survey when like Dead of Winter just came out. What do you want to see next? My choice didn't get chosen, but I was super hype anyway.
Well, what was your choice? What did you say you wanted the next Crossroads?
I wanted the Underground. There was
Underground Crossroads game.
Yes.
That would be
super I don't know
weird.
Why. Well, because like the Matrix, I don't know why I've been like this for the last like 5 or 6 years. I've been on this huge Matrix kick, even though I haven't seen the movie in like 6 or 7 years. And Zion was underground, and so I thought that'd be really cool to have like let's just say nuclear war happens and now everybody has to live underground for warmth and stuff.
Gotcha.
I could see the whole sabotaging and stuff like that. But anyway,
and
man, Jerry, bro, I'm excited for that game.
Y'all recently had
better stuff. Flat Hat's back in action. We're going full steam. We got a awesome family. Our crew works like a family together. Everybody's working on everybody's games.
That's awesome.
We work as a big old group, and
so it's gonna be and I know exciting. You can't necessarily say this yet because the game is not even out yet itself. But one of the things that was really great and is still really great about Mice and Mystics is the support and the additions. Do you at least have ideas in mind already for expansions and or standalone expansions or anything like that for Stuff Fables? Not necessarily are we ever going to see them because I understand it's very early in the process, but being that
is there more story
Stuff
to be
Fables
told?
I have a downloadable
or something
chapter.
like that.
Oh,
I have a
nice.
downloadable chapter that's going to be ready to go on launch.
Oh,
It'll
nice.
be like an eighth story for Stuff Fables, and you'll be able to like print, get the PDF, download the PDF, and then take it to Kinko's or whatever and print it off.
I was wondering how that was going to work with the whole map on the board sort of thing. So
yeah, we'll just have to give you some advice on how to on what to ask for when you go to have it printed.
Nice.
So we're gonna have that. There's gonna be some other downloadable content for Stuff Fables. We're gonna have a painting guide that I'll be doing.
Oh, that's
For
awesome.
the miniatures. And also have some surprises coming for that. As far as expansions go, I don't know. We'll just see how the market goes and stuff on this.
Got it.
Everybody's got to buy more copies if you want more Stuff
Fables. Design a bunch of expansions for something, but the adventure book concept is like my greatest tool to work with as a designer. So I'm definitely going to be doing more adventure book games.
I'm definitely excited to see what all you've put into that adventure book with all the different puzzles and activities and things like that you can utilize that dice bag to figure out how to overcome them.
Oh yeah, I hear you, Jerry. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Okay, good.
And you guys recently had a couple games that came out. The Warren Colonies came out at Gen Con,
Warren
right?
Colonies and
Crossfire.
Crossfire, yes. So if you don't know about Crossfire, it's a social deduction game that's played with 5 to 10 players, and it plays in 3 minutes, and it's just fun, gets everybody laughing. You're all accusing each other of stuff, just like, you have a hidden role, social deduction kind of thing going on. You're trying, half of you are trying to protect this VP, the other half of you are trying to basically, assassinate him. And so everybody's accusing everybody else, and it's really fun.
It's one of those games you can't play just once. You have to play it over and over and over.
You usually play it like 2 or 3 times, But Warring Colonies is cool because it allows, 2 groups of people to set up 2 games of Dead of Winter and then pit 2 colonies against each other. And it has all the rules and extra characters and extra components for doing that. And it's really fun and really cool and interesting take on Dead of Winter.
It's so funny. I grew up with my dad, like, getting into board games, and he was more into like the war games and like the old school games and stuff like that. But I've gotten him into more modern games, and he's got a group of guys that he plays games with from his work, and they're really big into Dead of Winter. So when we were talking about Christmas gifts this year, my dad was telling me about how much he wants Warren Colonies for Christmas, which is just like, it's awesome to have like my dad be like, no, oh my goodness, Plaid Hat Games, I love Dead of Winter. I really want the Warren Colonies expansion that just came out. I'm like, oh man, we got to try to make that happen. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, me and Rob have been,
if you can get the people together to play the Warring Colonies, it's really fun.
Me and Rob have been struggling trying to figure out when we're going to have enough people to make that happen. We're going to have to do it at my Christmas game day, Rob, or something like that. When we have
we're going to have to soon, because I'm a huge Dead of Winter fan. That's why I'm excited for this Gen 7 project.
Rob's going to keep repeating that name over and over again.
Oh.
Whether that stays the name or not, or is that official? Is that officially the name?
Let's just say we got a Crossroads game coming out next year.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, like I know,
Things
like
can
Tail
change.
Feathers for a while was like TF, because I'm a Doug listening to the podcast. And so like TF, what's TF? Oh, Tail Feathers. That makes sense now. But
I remember listening to the Plaid Hat podcast back before Mice and Mystics came out, and Jerry was just like on the podcast as like one of their guys.
Like
he's
a buddy.
Just working on a game that's coming out in a little bit. It's old school right there. It's old school.
Yeah. That's me, old school.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us all about Stuffed Fables. Everybody make sure to check it out and get your pre-orders in, because it looks like it might be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd be this year, and the possibility that it could be here possibly before Christmas. Yeah, this is definitely a Christmas present right here.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
I'm super excited.
I mean, they're very committed to making sure it gets out there before Christmas. It's a big push to try to do that. So
I'm so excited for that.
As obviously, it would be a nice little present under the tree for families.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Is there anywhere people can find you if they want to learn more about your games or be able to interact with you?
Sure. You can get me on mice_guy on Twitter. And then you can just find me at Plaid Hat Games. I'm Jerry at plaidhatgames.com. And so, yeah, that's it. Basically it.
Awesome. And if people check out plaidhatgames.com, they can see updates for Stuffed Fables as they're talking about different things. I know you guys have put a couple different articles up about different things in the game and stuff like that, showing different artwork and talking about the different characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, every Wednesday we have our previews. We've shown like little glimpses behind the curtain of some of the characters and some of the philosophy behind the game and stuff, and just kind of teasing it a little bit. And we'll continue to do that until release.
Chat saying thanks so much for coming on and giving us the designer perspective and input. So everybody out there is excited. We stream these Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to check us out at youtube.com/Epic Gaming Night. Also, make sure to hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Epic Gaming Night. We're posting games and things we're excited about. I've been posting a bunch of pictures of the stuffed Fables miniatures that I took at Gen Con and things like that. So make sure to check out all that stuff. And also, thanks so much to our amazing patrons who help support the show and let us do what we're doing. If you feel like supporting Epic Gaming Night, make sure to check us out at patreon.com/Epic Gaming Night. You guys are all amazing. So thanks for checking us out. And thanks again for coming on the show, Jerry.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Jerry, so I'm pre-ordering the game right now. And the thing is, you guys are going to do a dance party, and I could possibly put in a song. What song do you want to dance to? Right now, my choice is Wrecking Ball from Miley Cyrus.
It has an option to put in a dance party? What?
Well, it says under your order notes that every time a game is ordered from their website, that the office does a dance party, and that if you like to, you can put in a song, and there's a chance, not to say it's going to happen, but there's a chance that a video will come out. I don't know, for some reason, I could just see like Isaac swinging across something, like coming in as like a wrecking ball, and everybody else just like going crazy around him. And so,
there you go.
Do you have any
nude Isaac swinging
yes.
a ball? Great. I'll have to let him know that.
Do you have any suggestions, or
no? Nothing would beat that. That would be the best.
Right? Okay, I'm doing that right now.
Awesome, guys. We'll see all you guys next time in chat. Thanks for coming out. Oh, I'm supposed to do my dice giveaway. I better make sure to do that.
Yeah.
Before I get off here, people would get mad at me. Awesome. So if you're in the live stream and you haven't typed anything in chat yet, I can only see you if you've typed something in chat, so make sure to say hi or something in there, but I'll check and see who all we have in chat currently. Cool. It looks like people okay, there's only a couple people left. I think everybody else left.
Harlem Shake video could also be good, but I actually did a Harlem Shake video.
All right, Jerry, pick a number, 1 or 2.
No, there's got to be more than 2 people in chat right now.
I think everybody logged off.
They thought it was over, and then they forgot about the dice draw.
It says we have 14 people watching. At
nope.
least.
There's 4 in there right now.
Cool.
Outside of you, Roy. Yeah, a couple just jumped back on.
Oh, awesome.
Now 5. 6.
Everybody's jumping back on because I was like, oh yeah, dice, don't forget the dice.
Give them a second to get back on there.
Awesome. Let me go back and check that again.
So numbers between 1 through 6, Jerry, because we're not going to count Roy under the
obviously.
participants right now.
1 through 6, Jerry, pick a number.
5. Number 5.
That looks like, for me, oh crap, we just had more people jump on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5, 1, 2.
Yeah, but
3,
Adam doesn't
4,
count.
5.
Adam just got in the chat.
Cool. James Fitzgerald. What's up, James Fitzgerald? Make sure to hit us up at epicgamingnight.com or epicgamingnight@gmail.com. Hit us up with your address. I think I might have your address from our Patreon. But if not, make sure to hit us up over at epicgamingnight@gmail.com, and I will get some Favorite Game Friday and Epic Gaming Night dice sent out to you. And thanks everybody who joined us in chat. You guys are amazing. Everybody was in there talking about how excited they are about the game, Jerry, and giving us different questions to ask you about different things. So it was pretty exciting. So thanks again so much for coming on, and we're going to stop the stream. You guys are great. Congrats,
yes.
James.
Thank you so much, Jerry. And also, James is a Patreon too, so it works out.
Yep, he's the best.
Perfect.
Cool. Peace.